What up, everybody? Happy holidays and welcome to the Week 17 Fantasy Flex Waiver podcast presented by PrizePicks. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, joined as always by my dude, Sean Koerner. Sean, happy holidays. How's it going, man?
Happy holidays. What a wild just week 16, just crazy. I got destroyed on spreads and totals, which has been pretty rare this year. I've been doing good in that realm. 7-6 on props, although if you look at my mentions, you guess I went 0-13. I had a couple really bad calls on my props, but overall, slightly positive on props. Really good projections week. I think I did good on Fantasy Pros again. And in fantasy football, my God, I got destroyed in our Action Network League. I just got hit hard by COVID. I had Austin Eckler, Mike Williams, and no depth at running back. So unfortunately, I am not facing you in the finals this week. So congrats to anybody out there that survived this week and advanced to the finals. Hopefully we can give you some advice this week to bring down your championship. But unfortunately, that will not be me in our league. But you, on the other hand.
No, I feel like I did good in fantasy and did good in DFS, but yeah, betting was just a shit show. I mean, I'm not even going to go into if you had under 20 first half Broncos Raiders, you know how that went. Hopefully you got the 20.5 or something, because that was murderous. But yeah, it's I think everyone who has made it to the championship deserves a congratulations, because these last 2 weeks really are just and even people let's say you had Jonathan Taylor.
Oh yeah.
He didn't really do much, this week. But I will say this before we even get started, because we don't usually talk about, defenses or anything like that. We try to keep it to the main 4 positions. But if you can pick up, if you're listening to this before Monday Night Football, you can pick up the Saints for free, because they shouldn't have to clear waivers since they didn't play yet. If you have a roster spot, if you could put somebody on IR or drop somebody that you're not going to use in that game. Because they're right now 7-point favorites against the Panthers. The total is only 38, and the Panthers, there's speculation that they may be dealing with major COVID issues. So, if the Saints are available in your league and you're going to need a defense because you made the championship and you've been kind of streaming, go pick up the Saints, just as kind of a speculative ad. They should get healthier for next week. And the Panthers, they've already put some guys on the COVID list. It's going to be Cam Newton or Sam Darnold. So it should be a good matchup for them.
Yeah, it's a great call.
All right, let's get into let's start with the showdown slate real quick for Monday night, and then we'll get into our top waiver priorities at quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. We have the Dolphins Saints. Sean, captain spot. I think Alvin Kamara is an obvious one on the Saints side. So let's talk more about the Dolphins. Who are you looking at on their side in terms of the captain spot?
I think the Dolphin side, Jalen Waddle makes a ton of sense. He could be a target hog tonight. And he could thrive in either a positive or negative game script. Obviously, I'm expecting a positive tonight going up against Ian Book. But, it's going to be tough for the Dolphins to run tonight going up against the top-ranked defense and run DVOA. So, quick passes to Jalen Waddle and, leaning on his after-the-catch ability, it's probably the Dolphins' game plan tonight. So I think he's a good bet for a ton of targets, ton of catches. So he makes logical sense for the captain slot, but also I think Tua himself could be sneaky. This is a rare time where he's had Waddle, Devontae Parker, and Mike Gesicki all at the same time. And like I said, they could lean on the pass a ton tonight. Tua has some rushing upside. So I think Tua makes sense as well in the captain slot, but I think Waddle is probably your best bet to go with him. And then you'll have to get creative in the flex slot, obviously.
Yeah, like Waddle as well. He's the guy that stands out for me. I don't think I'm really doing much Tua. I did love the angry run. I think it was last week against the Jets. He truck stick somebody. But I still have a lot of respect for the Saints defense. I know they got some COVID issues, obviously, but home game, down to your third string quarterback. I just think their defense is going to have to carry them. So I think it's going to be more of a low scoring game. I mean, the total is what now? 37. It's just, I think it might be the lowest total of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
Has to be.
Yeah.
The total is up to 38 and I love the under.
Right.
I have this projected, this is even before the Taysom Hill news. I had it projected around 36.5, but with Ian Book, I have it right at 35. So this is my lowest total projection of the season. And it should be the lowest total for every every reason you're going to talk about. But yeah, I still love the under at 38.
Right. So yeah, so Waddle for me, just because I think he can get, he could get those catches. They like throwing to him in the end zone for safeties and things like that. So it's like, he's gonna get his catches is kind of what I'm trying to say. And more importantly, I think that Devontae Parker, he could be the guy on the outside that they kind of lock up. That's what the Saints tend to do. Lattimore is playing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just making sure, like every time we record, there's like COVID news going on.
Yeah. That I know of. I haven't checked my phone.
No. So I know Jenkins, I think, is on the list, the safety.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Both linebackers.
Yeah.
But I think their cornerback group is the only safe group right now.
Sure. So, yeah. So that kind of favors Waddle, who can move around a little bit more than a guy who goes underneath a little bit more than a guy like Parker, who's going to be, perimeter guy running most of his routes near the sideline. I think he's going to be easier to take out. And the Saints have done really well against tight ends this year. I know Gesicki isn't your traditional tight end, but that's also something to kind of keep in mind. It just kind of points to Waddle. For DFS cheat codes, let's start. Since you said, you probably had a pretty good projection week. You did another top 5 last week, so congrats on that. But I'm curious as to your projections on Gaskin and Duke Johnson, because I think a lot of people are curious, and I got way too many questions yesterday. Like I had some time before lock. So I said, hey, if anyone wants to ask some last minute questions, and I got way too many questions about, should I start Duke Johnson? And even should I start Duke Johnson over like Justin Jackson or Ronald Jones? And it was just like, no, you shouldn't. So I feel like people are going to have the same type of question for this, more so in relation to Myles Gaskin than anything else, maybe in relation to Mark Ingram. So I'm just curious as to how are you projecting the usage split between Gaskin and Duke Johnson for this tough matchup?
Yeah, so it's a really tough matchup. I have them basically even in terms of rush attempts, so right around 10 each. It's really hard. This is why I said Myles Gaskin was a frozen pond running back heading into the season. Is Brian Flores is the kind of guy, he doesn't need to stick with one guy. He plays a hot hand. So right now, Duke Johnson is the hot hand, but that could change again tonight. So I think when it comes to attacking this backfield, it's like, who's going to get the most receiving work? I think that's going to be the key to get around the Saints defense. And last week, Gaskin still outran Duke Johnson, which is kind of crazy. When you think of Duke Johnson, you think of him as a pass catching back, but it was still Gaskin as a pass catching back. So I'm sticking with Gaskin here. He's like a RB3 with a really, really low floor. But I think, he's going to bounce back in terms of rush attempts and should still see the most receiving work. So I think it's Gaskin for me. But, you have Philip Lindsay coming back. I don't know if Malcolm Brown is set to come back tonight, but he's due to come off. Like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't like, if you held this long, that was probably a bad move. But you're stuck with one of these two guys. I'd probably lean Gaskin. How about you?
Yeah, I have Gaskin in my RB 43 and Johnson my RB 44 for the week.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I have Gaskin at 10.2 touches for 37 yards and 0.29 touchdowns, and then Johnson at 9.8 touches for 39 yards and 0.29 touchdowns.
Do you have Lindsay getting any touches?
Yeah, I have Lindsay getting about 4.8 touches for 22.7 yards.
Okay. So that's a little bit more than me. So yeah, that's
it's hot hand, right? And they acquired Lindsay, what did they trade for him? I think it was. I don't know. How did they got him? I don't know how
they didn't have to give up much, obviously, to get him. But
players don't just get traded from the Texans. They just magically appear on a different roster. It's I don't know. But yeah, like you said, it could be a 4-back backfield. I have Ahmed getting one touch, but that could change to Brown or, it's whoever.
Right.
So I wouldn't, my point is I would actually probably like to be underweight relative to the field on all of the Dolphins running backs in this game. The only thing being that they could have a positive game script, but even so, it's just so hard to run on the Saints defense. Anyone else? So who guys are actually looking to play in the flex spot?
Yeah, I'm with you there on just avoiding this backfield to begin with. But if you want to be dangerous, you could target a guy like Philip Lindsay because there is so much uncertainty. Who the hell knows? But I think when it comes to the pass catchers, Isaiah Ford is probably the sneaky guy I'm going to target because Albert Wilson is out. He was placed on the COVID list last night, I believe. So I expect Ford to eat up most of his snaps. And he's sort of the logical replacement. He had 3 catches for 51 yards last week. If he could just do that again, that'll be enough to kind of win the slate here. Curious to hear how you're thinking of how that's going to shape out. You have guys like, Mac Hollins, Preston Williams, who seems to be completely out of the rotation now. Guys like that you can take swings at, but I think Isaiah Ford probably has the highest floor. And then, when it comes to the Saints side, I think Ian Book is, sneaky because of his rushing upside, but he's a quarterback. So I don't think he's going to be like under the radar. But I might have some shares of Book. And then Lil Jordan Humphrey. Sorry, it's not like Troy Aikman butchered it. Yeah, exactly. But with Troy, not Troy Aikman, Traquan Smith banged up. Both tight ends. Yeah, we're getting all the names mixed up now. Both tight ends are out due to COVID. A player like Humphrey could see a spike in playing time and usage tonight. So, 1 game slate, a guy like Humphrey certainly is in play. How about you?
Yeah, I like the Humphrey call because I think like a couple of weeks ago before he got hurt in practice, they were kind of planning on using him as more of, in the main wide receiver rotation, potentially as their number 2 or number 1.
Yep.
And then he got hurt, and then, they had to keep going, to go back to Callaway and Traquan, but they released Kenny Stills at one point. They brought him back, obviously. I think they released Kevin White, so they were kind of sold on Humphrey. So I do like him. He's also like the cheapest one. We don't know if Stills will be active, so Stills would be the cheapest one, but he's been healthy scratched a couple of times, including last week, I believe. So Humphrey, and then on Nick Vannett, the tight end for the Saints, he's still not on the COVID list, right?
Not that I'm aware of.
Got to double check. Yeah. So he could run every route. He could be on the field for every snap because Troutman is still on it. And I believe Johnson.
I think they're going to elevate Ethan Wolf. Yeah. So that goes to show. Yeah. So Vannett will probably run most of the routes tonight.
Yeah. So he's been somewhat involved even when he's been splitting time. So, him being one of the cheapest pass catchers, that's going to see a lot of routes. Like if you just look at like projected routes per salary, I think Vannett, and then Humphrey would win out. And Durham Smythe, he's been, so the Dolphins, people might not realize this, but the Dolphins are like the heaviest personnel team in the league. They run 2 tight ends more than anyone else. And Durham Smith averages 41% routes run per dropback for the year, but he's been at 59% plus 2 of the last 3 games, 61% last game. Adam Shaheen got hurt, about 4 weeks ago. And I'm not sure that he's still hurt or that they're just healthy scratching him now, but he hasn't played in a few weeks. And Smith's routes have kind of gone up even a little. He was always, in that like 30 to 40% range, but they've gone up a little more. And then Hunter Long has kind of taken that 3rd spot for Shaheen. So, I think Smythe is another guy here who, if you just look at projected routes per salary, he's going to be there. And it's a primetime game. So you got to go with the tight end, right? Like it's got to be.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially Dolphins. I do think that Shaheen was missing due to his knee injury, and he was finally able to get in a full practice this week. So I think he should return, but again,
that hurts Long more than it hurts Smythe.
Yeah. And Sethan Carter. I mean, they have 100 tight ends.
So Carter's apparently on the COVID list. I believe.
Yes, so he's out. So yeah, I think Smith, whatever his name is, should see 35 to 45% routes run. And I do think that the Dolphins will be more pass heavy here. So he's in play. I think there's so many like under the radar options here. So we probably don't have to go this deep. But Tommy Lee Lewis on the Dolphins, he was always Drew Brees' deep threat way back in the day. It's a revenge game. If you want to get wild, he might be on the field for like 2 routes tops. But he's like the lone deep threat for this team, so he could be sneaky. But like I said, this slate is pretty bad, and there's a lot of ancillary options, so I probably won't go this deep. But he seems like the biggest troll threat for this slate.
Well, yeah, because it actually goes right into 2 of my favorite plays are the defenses, because lowest total of the year, just
the
defensive game. Yep. You could stack Lewis with the Dolphins defense. He returned a punt last week. He was returning punts. So, that's what they're kind of bringing him up. Well, I mean, he played 11 special team snaps anyway, but returning punts is one of his duties. So, he's a good kind of large field.
Like one
contrarian
line,
guy.
if you're going to make 150 lines, have one of them with him.
Or just 150 and you just win all the money if it hits.
Oh yeah.
Or, somewhere in between maybe. All right, let's get into our waivers. Quarterbacks. Sean, who, if you're in the fantasy championship game, but you need a quarterback, which I had to start Josh Johnson in our fantasy league. That actually went pretty well, to be honest.
Yeah.
But could have been a lot worse. But who are you looking at for this week? Let's assume that the Ravens are going to get like either Lamar or Huntley back. So I'll take Johnson out of the equation. I think he might be the top ad if not, but assuming he's not an option, who do you like as a top ad for this week?
I mean, hopefully you have a top 8 quarterback right now, because I don't like the streaming quarterbacks this week, especially for the finals week where it's the most important. So, I mean, a guy like Taysom Hill, if he was dropped and available, assuming he returns this week, would be my top streaming option against the Panthers. They're a tough matchup for quarterbacks, but with him, we're playing him because of his rushing upside, so he'd still be a good play. So Taysom Hill for me, and then Justin Fields probably has the highest ceiling of the rest. Although I am a bit worried that he's dealing with an ankle injury. They don't have really anything to play for right now, so he might have a lower floor than I'd like heading into finals week. So Mac Jones against the Jaguars, they could just run the ball on the ground and beat the Jaguars. So I'm a bit worried about both their floors this week. So I just don't like the option. So hopefully Taysom Hill's dropped and you can add him this week.
Yeah, Taysom Hill, he's available just over half of leagues. So I think he's the clear guy. Fields, I think if he's playing, he's healthy. I mean, listen, they got to win without him. So if they're playing him, I assume that he would be ready to go. Which means, again, you just got to target these guys with the rushing upside. Hopefully, and I tweeted it out, Josh Johnson, hey, like if you're desperate, pick up Josh Johnson because he has rushing upside. It's like that's who you need, period. So Mac Jones, Davis Mills, I think is another one. He's playing well. But like these guys, they just don't have the rushing upside. Tua going against Tennessee, assuming he escapes this New Orleans game, probably is the next option up after Taysom and Fields. I would think, he's another guy that's available in over half of fantasy leagues, and he's got a little bit of rushing upside. Again, he truck sticks somebody against the Jets. So, this Tennessee defense, I mean, they're real physical defense. So maybe not a good look for a Miami team that plays in warm weather going to Tennessee late in the year, but that could just mean they have to throw more. So, I think Tua is probably next up.
Where do you have like Mac Jones ranked?
Mac Jones, I worry about a lot more because, like you said, it's the Jaguars. They find ways to give the opponent points. Like the Patriots will probably get like a defensive touchdown, a special teams touchdown. So that could kind of really depress the ceiling of Mac Jones. All right, let's go to running back. And man, first of all, happy Rex Burkhead Day. I feel like I've been shouting him out all year. And it's crazy because I had the under in that game. I think you did too. Of course, that didn't hit. But my whole reasoning was like, even though I like Rex Burkhead for DFS, I think you should pick him up in waivers. Houston can't run the ball, and that's really the Chargers' weakness. And lo and behold, Rex Burkhead goes bonkers against this team. So, I mean, shouts to Rex Burkhead. Shouts to, anyone who picked him up or played him in DFS or picked him up in fantasy and played him and got to the championship week because of it. But I'll start with him just because he had such a huge stat line. Is he like the number one waiver priority just because he had a huge stat line, and he is still that lead back, but he is going at the same time against one of the toughest matchups in the league in terms of run defenses. I believe San Francisco entered the week with the top 3 DVOA run defense.
Yeah, I think people should just go back in time and listen to you last week and play him because like you said, that was just an easy matchup. They ended up, killing the Chargers. This week probably won't have the same luck against the 49ers. They're 14-point underdogs or whatever this week. And like you said, the 49ers are the number 2 ranked defense in DVOA against the run. So this is a much tougher matchup. It's gonna be a lot tougher for him to run. And, David Johnson, I don't know if he's going to return or not, but if he returns, that's going to eat into Burkhead's receiving usage, which I think is critical in a matchup like this. So I think he's going to come back down to earth. But again, you can't deny that he does have the volume. So he's still like an RB3 flex if you're desperate. he has at least a high enough floor if you're desperate. So I wouldn't expect the same thing as last week. I think he's gonna come back down to earth, but you can't deny the volume.
I don't even know if Johnson would be a threat to receiving usage, because the last game, so Johnson had been getting some receiving usage kind of early in the year, but coming off the second game back off the bye, which is 4-5 weeks ago now, but Burke had 53% of routes, Johnson 25%. Then Johnson misses a couple games. He comes back. Burke had 45%, Johnson 13%. So Johnson really they've just kind of phased him out of the offense. So I actually think Burkhead's role will stay stable. I just think the matchup is the bigger concern. Like, it's bad. I think we have to go back to projecting him for like 2.2 yards a carry in this matchup, even though he beasted. But I mean, as far I still kind of, assuming we don't get any major injuries, I mean, I think it's pretty close between him and a guy like Dare Ogunbowale, because I mean, do we think he's just going to get like the feature back role now with James Robinson out? And it's against the Patriots, which obviously always worries me just because it's the Patriots and they're smart. So I don't know, like, is he your number one priority? Is it Burkhead? I think the one other guy that might be in the mix is Jordan Howard. Looks like he escaped with just a stinger. And so the coach Sirianni's saying he's probably going to play. He's probably going to be that true feature back for Philly. They've kind of phased Boston Scott out a little. Now, if Boston Scott is like, if Howard and Sanders are out, Boston Scott obviously becomes that guy. But I think if Howard plays, he's going to get like 15 to 20 carries, all the goal line work. So between those three guys, how are you kind of looking at it in terms of priority?
Yeah, I think in terms of upside, like Howard has RB2 upside at least. And Darrell Williams, if he's out there, I mean, I don't know what his rostership is, but he could have been dropped in 10 leagues. If he's out there, he certainly has RB2 upside this week. Even Ramondre Stevenson, if he's out there. But yeah, I would rank it, Darrell Williams, number one, obviously, if he's out there, then probably Howard, and then Dare O, because at least we know he probably is going to be the workhorse back. They had no choice but to use him as the workhorse back because they held out. Ryko Armstead was inactive, so he'll probably see some touches this week. But
Ryko Armstead, he's like a figment. Ryko Armstead is like the Curtis Samuel of running backs. It's like this guy has been a figment of our imagination since that year. We thought he was going to start over James Robinson like last year.
He's back. He had a really bad bout of COVID last year, developed a heart condition, but he's apparently healthy and ready to go. They just held him out last week because they didn't expect Robinson to, tear his Achilles. But, I don't think Cottrell's a threat or anything. So I am worried about the matchup against the Patriots, but Dare is a pass catching back. So it's a game script where he could still be involved. They could use him as a pass catching back. So at the end of the day, he's just an RB3 flex option for me. But like you said, I think Jordan Howard, if he is good to go this week, like you said, he had a stinger. He does have RB2 upside. I mean, the Eagles love to run the ball. They should be able to, have a pretty favorable game script against the football team. So I think Howard certainly has RB2 upside, but it's one of those things we'll have to see later in the week. There's going to be a lot of news that happens. Other guys might pop up that we don't even talk about today. But another guy I wanted to throw out there was Keyshawn Vaughn against the Jets. If you're desperate, I could see him putting up RB2 value in the second half alone against the Jets. I just think they're going to blow him out. They kind of want to protect Ronald Jones with Leonard Fournette already out. They don't want Ronald Jones to get hurt either. So I could see Keyshawn Vaughn just having a monster like second half. So if you're desperate and you need a flyer out there, I think Vaughn is an interesting like low end RB3 with a ton of upside as well.
Yeah, I was worried when he got that long touchdown against the Panthers, but then they kept going back to Jones. I think that Vaughn is a good speculative ad. I mean, and listen, the Bucs have had some COVID issues, right? So
yep,
it's not out of the question that Jones goes on the COVID list. And I think that's another strategy that goes for all positions. If anyone on the team goes on the COVID list, especially at that position, pick up, even if it's not the main guy, pick up like any backup who's not on the COVID list, because you might get lucky. And if you saw Eckler out last week or like put on the COVID list, Jackson was available in a lot of spots, even if, and Josh Kelly would have been a good ad too, because what if Jackson goes on the list like Saturday morning or something like that? So I think you got to look at it like that. So I like that call. Williams, the only thing I'm worried about is like Derek Gore got 15 touches. Like we know now, especially late in the year, the Chiefs are kind of on their way to like clinching. It's like never to trust Andy Reid's backfield distribution. So like, I don't know exactly where I'm gonna have Williams ranked. Like he's still gonna probably be pretty high, challenging Agumbawale and Howard. Probably be above Burkhead regardless, just because of the matchup. But that's the one thing I worry about is Derek Gore. Just kind of like I just don't know what Andy Reid be thinking sometimes. It'd be working. It's not. I'm not criticizing him, but yeah, that worries me. So we'll have to kind of get more information on that. And yeah, Stevenson, if he's available, pick him up. Although, Damian Harris has been playing so well that I think Stevenson kind of goes back to the true like number 2 running back, which is really the number 3 running back because Bolden will still get the passing usage. Because you can't bench Damian Harris. You can't bench Damian Harris after a game like that unless he like misses a meeting or something.
Well, I'm saying you bench him in the second half because you're up 24-0. And he's been dealing with the hammy injury. He's been dealing with the hammy injury. Why would you still be giving him rush attempts? But like you said, it's NFL, so he'll still be in there when they're up 34-0.
Or they won't be up. They'll be like down.
Yeah, or the Jaguars will be winning by 10 or something.
Or it'll be like a tie game, so they just have to keep feeding Harris. Like
yeah. So exactly. But yeah, I agree. I don't think Stevenson is going to overtake Harris, especially after last week.
Yeah.
But just if you're desperate, he has that upside if he's available still.
All right, let's go to wide receiver. Amon-Ra St. Brown obviously should be rostered in all leagues if he's not. He's been kind of weirdly low on the roster percentage. So just wanted to point that out. But out of the guys who are or should be available in the majority of leagues out there, I think the first guy I want to get your opinion on, and is he actually the highest priority, is Laquan Treadwell, because this is now 5 straight games, I believe it is, with 4+ catches for 50+ yards. But he's going against the Patriots. So the question is, does Belichick view him now as the number 1 receiver? Because it's clearly not Shenault, even if he comes back. Like it's right. Not him. His usage has been going down anyway, so it's not him. Marvin Jones, I feel like defensive coordinators kind of do look at Marvin Jones as that number 1, and that's why his production has kind of gone in the tank. And Treadwell has been able to do this kind of consistent produce these consistent performances because they're paying a little more attention to Marvin Jones. So I'm just curious do we think we can get one more week of like 10 fantasy points in PPR from Treadwell?
Absolutely. You can't fade him at this point. Like he said, he has a really high floor. Although I wouldn't put him over a guy like Josh Palmer. If he's out there, he's probably my top ad this week. I've been touting Josh Palmer since week 1. I've been waiting for this moment. I thought by now he would pass up Jalen Guyton. Unfortunately, he needed Jalen Guyton and Mike Williams to hit the COVID list to finally shine. But I think Mike Williams he's expected to miss again this week. So Palmer should see, 90% plus routes run this week. And, he has one of the best deep ball passers in Justin Herbert. So I have Josh Palmer as a low end wide receiver 3. So he's the top ad for me. Then, yeah, I would say Laquan Treadwell just because of his high floor. But then these guys like Isaiah McKenzie, Zay Jones, they also have a pretty high floor right now. So I consider them, sort of mid-range wide receiver 4 flex ads. I'm assuming Cole Beasley and Gabe Davis are supposed to be out again this week. McKenzie led the entire team in routes run. They face the Falcons this week. So I like Isaiah McKenzie, believe it or not. And Zay Jones, sort of similar situation. He's running a ton of routes. He has a really high floor too. He's seen 5+ catches in 4 of the past 5 games. So these Treadwell, McKenzie, Zay Jones types are the kind of guys you kind of want in your last slot in the finals if you're hurting. They all seem to really have a high floor right now.
I mean, McKenzie and Zay Jones, all we need to do is get Robert Foster. We got that 2019 Bills squad.
Seriously.
Yeah, one other guy I want to mention, KJ Osborne. Adam Thielen, it looks like he's not going to play this week, right? I mean, I don't know.
I can't imagine. Like the way he went down and the way he was acting, it seemed like a multi-week injury. It was the same injury, right? Like,
I believe so. I haven't seen an official update as we record this Monday afternoon that he's going to be out officially, but he did hurt the ankle and didn't look good, as you said. So I think Osborne would probably be, if you don't have St. Brown, I think it would be Palmer, probably Osborne, then Treadwell, just because Man, I have so much respect for Belichick. Like, I mean, even if he's not treating Treadwell as a number one, they could kind of bagel him in this game. It's still Trevor Lawrence against a Belichick defense, right? Like
exactly.
That's a
It's
nightmare.
Not pretty.
He couldn't punch it in against the Jets to win the game.
Seriously,
so I'm a little concerned about going to face Belichick now.
As somebody that's been forced to watch too many Jaguar games, Trevor Lawrence has not looked good this year, so I definitely worry about them against Bill Belichick. How about Alan Lazard? Any interest in him? And is MVS expected to return this week? Like, what's up with that?
I think at this point we have to assume that MVS, because remember, they've also protocols are a little relaxed, so it's like you can as long as you're vaccinated, you can come back within 24 hours of a negative, what is it, no symptoms or something like that, negative test.
I think you have to have a negative PCR, like below 35% or something. Like, I haven't been up to date, but the threshold has been lowered.
Right. So I would assume, as if I'm like, when I'm projecting right now, I'm still projecting MVS to play, but Lazard, I think, jumps up a lot. But for right now, I think you have to look at the guys that are more likely to be out, like Palmer, as far as priority, because it's like, if Lazard's on your wire, but also like Palmer and Osborne and, Zay Jones and Treadwell are on your wire, I think it's just a smarter move to pick up those guys because they're more likely to play a full complement of snaps. Whereas Lazard, if MVS is back, MVS usually is treated as the number 2 receiver. So it's just a little, Lazard will still be out there a lot of routes, I think, a lot of snaps, but he's kind of a little further down. And then what about, like, what are we doing with Kadarius Toney? I know you liked him last week, but the Giants passing game, the quarterback situation, you can't like that. So it's like, can we trust this guy at all? I'm kind of leaning toward no, just because there's so many other options.
No,
but you had him written down, so
the ship. No, I was gonna say, I just wanted to mention him one more time. Just he has so much potential, but the ship has sailed. We would need the season to be 4 or 5 more weeks, and for Daniel Jones to return, for him to be relevant. But unfortunately, time has run out, and we can't trust Kadarius Toney this week. I just wanted to mention him one more time. That's all.
Yeah, I saw him written down here. I was like, oh, that's a little bit of an outlier.
And how crazy is it? So it looks like Allen Robinson is going to return this week.
Yes, he is back.
Even if he's available out there, there's no way you can add him and play him. And he was drafted in what, the third round? Like, how? Like,
I think you do draft him. I think you do pick him up and play him.
Pick him up and play him this week?
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about it like this: he's in the midst of his worst season as a pro. There's 2 games left. What do you, especially, and I think it would be even better if Foles played, obviously. If the Fields plays, they're building that running game and, they're building, they're going to try to be run heavy. But, like, really, if Allen Robinson comes back, I don't think it's his fault that, like, all this disastrousness occurred.
Right.
So I think the Bears, I mean, they clearly have nothing to lose. Nagy's going for 2. They're in that mode to where I think they just go out there and try to get Allen Robinson. He's at 32 catches right now for 353 yards. Like, I think they try to get him to like 50 for 500 at least. You know what I mean? Like, these last 2 games, I could see them trying to get him like 10 for 100 each game. So
I mean,
just a speculation.
So.
Obviously,
he would be really tough to trust in the finals, though. That's all I'm saying. And he's probably available in a ton of leagues, which is just, I can't remember the last time a receiver is drafted in like the first 3 rounds and he's healthy and available in the finals week and nobody cares.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's
like you said, it's not all his fault, obviously. A lot of things going on. It's just interesting to point out.
Oh yeah, it's murderous. But I mean, if you're desperate, hey, why not? At least have the option, see what happens. But let's go to tight end quickly. Foster Moreau, if Waller sits again, is probably the top option. Oh, actually, no. Pat Freiermuth, if he comes back, I think would be the top option this week. Is it one of those 2 guys for you?
Oh yeah, for sure. Foster Moreau, he's a low end tight end 1 when Waller's out, and he had that one bad game. I think it was the first spot start he had. He performed poorly, but he's bounced back and he's been productive without Waller. I have no idea if Waller is going to return this week. So yeah, if Moreau for some reason is out there and you need help at tight end, he's the top ad. And Freiermuth, just the touchdown upside that Freiermuth provides. He's like a low end tight end 1 kind of upside. So if he got dropped last week, certainly add him. But outside of that, guys like Gerald Everett, Cole Kmet, they seem to have a higher floor, especially Kmet. Like he's good for 4 catches and 50 yards every week, but no touchdowns because of Jimmy Graham, the touchdown vulture. So those guys, if you're just looking for a higher floor, but that's about it. And our boy Dan Arnold, he might return this week. So if he's out there, maybe he's a flyer ad, but either way, it's Moreau and Freiermuth for me.
Yeah, the Patriots entered the week number 1 in DVOA against tight end, so maybe not.
Oh well, yeah. And
yeah.
I thought O'Shaughnessy got hurt. Like I was watching
the
game.
He did.
It looked like his leg exploded, but he's not an injury report. So I guess it was just like a minor issue. Might have been a cramp or something. But if he was out and Arnold returned this week, then I would be all over Arnold. But yeah, can't trust him, especially against the Pats.
Yeah. Yeah, especially especially with them having like must wins, like now they kind of gave up that division lead to the Bills, so yeah, I wouldn't trust them. Everett and Kmet, just because of the matchups, Detroit and the Giants, those are pretty soft matchups. So, but yeah, I think I'd mean Freiermuth number 1, Moreau. Freiermuth number 1 because we know he's the starter. Moreau because it doesn't look like Waller's going to be back, but there is a chance. There's always a chance because Waller only needs I think he needs like a few yards for 1,000, so they might like bring him back at some point. Let's see, what does he have right
that would be that's what week 18 is for.
Yeah. Oh no, he's pretty short. No, sorry, he's way. I heard the announcer say that he was like close to 1,000, but he's actually at 643. So yeah, no, he's not coming back. I doubt he's coming back is what I should say.
Okay.
I don't know why they said that.
Fantasy flex favorite Brevin Jordan bounced back last week with 4 catches for 56 yards. He's another guy with a ton of upside. If we're talking about super deep tight end,
another tough matchup. Though. I think San Francisco is number 2 in DVOA.
Yeah, Jaquizzi Tart, that shutdown defense. Yeah, but I don't know. They're just the Texans are in evaluation mode, and Brevin Jordan, he was held out week 15 because of that hand injury. But anytime he's been active and healthy, he's been putting up numbers. So he's just like a bet on talent kind of play this week.
Yeah, I don't mind him. I mean, they are number 2, so it's tough matchup. But if you're desperate in a 2 tight end, deep league, you could do a lot worse. All right, that's going to wrap it up for our waiver episode for week 17, presented by PrizePicks. Be sure to follow Sean on Twitter at @the_oddsmaker. You can find me at Chris Raybon, and you can find us at those same handles in the free award-winning Action Network app. Check out actionnetwork.com for our fantasy football content, rankings, and projections, and fantasylabs.com for our DFS content, tools, and models. And be sure to leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple or Spotify. Really helps us out a lot. Until next time, let's get this money.